Welcome to the show that goes beyond the ropes. We are officially on the road to WrestleMania, and the landscape is shifting every single hour. Tonight, we're breaking down the fallout, the rivalries that are reaching a fever pitch, and the previews that are setting the world on fire. My name is Ava, and along with Cricket, this is the road to immortality, which starts right here.
Usually when we talk about live entertainment, there is this very clear, almost impenetrable dividing line.
Right, like a boundary.
Yeah, exactly. Like you go to a Broadway play and you know heading in that every single word is strictly scripted, right?
Yeah.
Every piece of tape on the stage is a mark just waiting to be hit.
Oh, absolutely.
But then you go to a football game and the absolute chaos is the point. I mean, nobody in stadium knows how the narrative ends until the clock officially runs out.
Yeah, the unpredictability is why you tune in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then you step into the bizarre, brilliant world of professional wrestling, and suddenly that clean dividing line is just, well, it's completely erased.
It really is.
We are looking at a landscape that is the absolute definition of a murky middle. It's this place where the unscripted chaos of real life is constantly colliding with, predetermined corporate storytelling.
It is a unique, deeply fascinating hybrid. Because, human beings naturally like things to be categorized, right? We want things to be either real or fake, legitimate sport or pure theater. But wrestling demands that you accept both realities simultaneously.
Yeah.
You have to understand that while the finishes are written on a piece of paper in the back, the gravity, the boardroom politics, and the actual biology of the performers in the ring are very, very real.
Which brings us to another customized deep dive for you, the listener. Because if you're tuning in, it means you want to grasp the absolute big picture without getting bogged down by the endless, exhausting noise of the internet rumor mill.
There is a lot of noise out there.
So much. Today, we are analyzing the highly anticipated landscape of WrestleMania Nights 1 and 2. But we have a very specific mission here.
We do.
We aren't just going to, read off a dry list of who is projected to win or lose. We wanted to dissect the actual anatomy of modern pro wrestling.
Yes.
We're going to cover how corporate boardroom mandates, intense real-life logistical nightmares, and these really subtle psychological cues actually dictate the outcomes on the grandest stage of them all.
And our entire roadmap for this exploration comes exclusively from the comprehensive insights of Cricket Fox. She's the voice behind the Sock Sorority podcast and the Corner Coffee with Cricket brand.
Right.
Her breakdown of the upcoming card serves as our foundation today, and what her analysis brilliantly reveals is that the forces shaping these monumental matches, well, they often have absolutely nothing to do with what happens between the physical ropes.
It's wild. Let's start right at the top of the card and transition away from the bright lights of the ring straight into the cold, hard reality of the corporate boardroom.
The best place to start.
Right. So the night one main event is the undisputed WWE Championship match. You have Cody Rhodes defending the title against Randy Orton, who is notably bringing Pat McAfee to his corner.
Right, McAfee being a huge factor here.
Exactly. And the prediction from our source material is that Randy Orton walks away with the title. But there is this massive corporate elephant in the room dictating this entire scenario.
Oh, yeah.
The overwhelming influence of the TKO group.
Yeah, so for some essential context here, TKO is the massive conglomerate that now oversees the entire business side of the promotion.
Right.
And what the source material highlights is this growing sentiment that the boardroom is now actively booking the ring. We are seeing widespread reports that TKO CEO Ari Emanuel is directly pushing his own client, Pat McAfee, into this incredibly high-profile main event scene.
Wow.
It is a level of executive interference that fundamentally alters the traditional booking structure.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the analysis flags this executive meddling as a massive problem, right? It argues that when suits start dictating creative direction, the internal logic of the sport just completely dies.
That's the argument, yeah.
And I completely understand that fan frustration.
Yeah.
It's like a major television network forcing a popular viral reality star into the season finale of a prestige Emmy-winning drama purely for the sake of corporate synergy.
It's a jarring shift for the viewer.
Totally. It completely disrupts the established narrative ecosystem that viewers have invested in for months. But I have to push back slightly on this premise.
Okay, let's hear it.
Isn't pro wrestling at its absolute core always about business? I mean, hasn't the promoter always made creative decisions based on who draws the most money and eyeballs? Why is this specific corporate hand suddenly so visible and so bothersome to the audience right now?
Well, the friction comes from a delicate balance that has recently been disrupted. From the perspective of a traditional fan, wrestling relies on an internal, established sports logic.
Right.
Wins, losses, and long-term storytelling are supposed to be the mechanisms that dictate who organically earns a main event spot at WrestleMania.
You have to earn it.
Exactly. When a personality like Pat McAfee is inserted into the title picture, seemingly just because of his representation by the CEO of the parent company, it shatters the illusion of that meritocracy. The audience feels the strings being pulled.
Yeah, that makes sense.
However, if we look at this strictly through a TKO corporate lens, this is masterful business. This is about maximizing cross-platform visibility.
Oh, sure.
They are looking at synergy, social media engagement, and tapping into McAfee's massive mainstream sports audience. Neither perspective is inherently wrong, but they are currently on a massive collision course in the main event of WrestleMania.
It is the ultimate clash of artistic integrity versus commerce, right?
Yeah.
And it's playing out in real time with the most prestigious championship belt on the line.
Precisely.
But boardroom mandates aren't the only external forces hijacking the script. I mean, if the executives are writing the top of the card, raw logistical reality is forcing frantic last-minute rewrites for the rest of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's look at the unsanctioned match on night one. You've got Jacob Fatu taking on Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
Now, the promotion is billing this as a vicious hybrid of a last-man-standing match crossed with a street fight.
Sounds brutal.
It does. But there is a massive real-world liability hanging over the ring here.
Yeah, because Drew McIntyre is actually scheduled to leave and film a major Hollywood movie immediately following the event.
Right, which completely breaks the illusion of the match, if you really think about it.
It totally does.
You are billing this as a brutal, career-shortening street fight. But the reality is that the producers have a multi-million-dollar liability on their hands if Drew McIntyre gets a black eye or a concussion or a broken bone.
He legally and contractually has to show up to a film set intact.
Exactly. So the prediction firmly leans toward Jacob Fatu simply because the logistics demand that Drew survives the match relatively unscathed.
And that underlying reality completely alters the physical choreography of what we are going to watch. I mean, how do you book an unsanctioned, violent brawl when one participant cannot take a major bump?
Right. How do you even do that?
It requires incredible smoke and mirrors. You have to rely on weapon spots that look devastating but are incredibly safe, like bashing a specialized prop over a padded area or utilizing really careful camera angles.
Wow.
More importantly, it means relying heavily on the opponent. Jacob Fatu will likely have to serve as the crash test dummy for the evening. He'll be taking all the dangerous bumps to sell the brutality of the match, while Drew provides the offense. The movie contract essentially dictates the flow of the violence.
That is so interesting. But Hollywood contracts are one thing. Sometimes the external constraints are just raw biology.
True.
Like, look at the six-man tag match.
Yeah.
You have Logan Paul, Austin Theory, and IShowSpeed taking on the Usos and LA Knight. The source material points out a staggering real-life variable here.
The baby.
Yes. The sheer panic of live television production, because Jimmy Uso's wife, Naomi, is due to have a baby at any literal moment.
That creates an incredible amount of tension for the producers behind the curtain. You have a key performer who might realistically have to sprint up the ramp and head to the hospital in the middle of a massive stadium show.
That is insane.
The producers likely have 2 or 3 contingency finishes planned out, just in case an audible needs to be called mid-match.
And that biological ticking clock, combined with the fact that IShowSpeed lacks professional in-ring experience while teaming with a duo known for utilizing dirty tactics, makes Logan, Theory, and Speed the heavy favorites to win this chaotic setup.
Makes perfect sense.
And the medical constraints don't stop there. In the women's tag team title Fatal 4-Way, champions Nia Jax and Lash Legend are defending against Charlotte and Alexa, Bayley and Lyra, and the Bellas.
A packed match.
Yeah, and Charlotte and Alexa are positioned as the logical winners, but the analysis reveals that Nikki Bella is currently in an absolute race against time just to get medically cleared by doctors to even compete.
Which adds a layer of genuine unscripted suspense. On top of the medical drama, there is an interesting historical irony at play here, too.
Oh.
The women's tag titles didn't even exist during the Bellas' original prominent run in the company. So you have legacy characters returning to compete for a modern prize, while real-world doctors determine if the match can even happen as advertised. It is a perfect storm of reality crashing into the fantasy booking.
So what does this all mean? I have to ask you, the listener, directly. Does knowing about Drew McIntyre's movie schedule or a pending baby delivery or Nikki Bella's frantic race for medical clearance, does pulling back the curtain like that ruin the suspension of disbelief for you?
That's a great question.
Right. Or does it actually make solving the puzzle of predicting these matches even more fascinating?
What's fascinating here is how the relationship between the promotion and the modern audience has evolved. We are operating in an era where the audience is incredibly educated about the mechanics of the industry.
Oh, totally. They know everything.
They read the financial reports, they track the Hollywood movie deals, they know about medical protocols. So instead of these out-of-ring constraints breaking the illusion, they actually form a meta layer of the storytelling itself.
Wow.
The fans aren't just watching a simulated fight, they're watching how the performers and the producers navigate the real-world limitations placed upon them in real time. It evolves from simple athletic theater into a complex, constantly adapting form of performance art.
It's like watching a master illusionist. But you already know the mechanics of half the tricks, so you're appreciating their sleight of hand and their problem-solving skills even more than the magic itself.
Precisely. And speaking of real-world constraints that you simply cannot book your way out of, we have to talk about the most inescapable logistical reality in all of professional sports.
Which is?
The ticking clock of a performer's career.
Oh, yeah. Real-world logistics aren't always as sudden as a movie role or a maternity ward. Sometimes they are as inevitable as father time.
Yeah.
Let's shift our focus to night 2, starting with the World Heavyweight Championship main event. You have CM Punk defending against Roman Reigns. Now, on television, this is framed as a highly personal, deeply emotional clash of massive egos.
Huge egos.
But the analysis poses a very pointed, highly practical question about Roman Reigns. Because he is operating on a limited, part-time schedule, can a publicly traded company, in good faith, put their flagship championship belt back around his waist?
That is the ultimate operational dilemma for the promotion. Both of these men have undeniable star power. But predicting the winner requires looking past the personal animosity in the storyline and analyzing the financial stability of the brand.
Right.
A champion who isn't present for weekly television or untelevised live events creates a vacuum. It forces the rest of the roster to work twice as hard to draw houses and sell merchandise without their biggest star on the marquee.
That makes a lot of sense.
So based purely on that critical question of availability and carrying the brand week in and week out, the prediction sides with CM Punk retaining the title.
That financial reality alone makes predicting a winner incredibly complex. And we see this overarching theme of time, aging, and legacy heavily influencing the grudge match between Femi and Brock Lesnar.
Oh, definitely.
The source material highlights this as the match of night 2, purely because it serves as a monumental passing the torch moment. The audience desperately wants Femi to secure this win and solidify his status as a main event player.
But the mechanics of a match featuring two men of that size require intense preparation. There is a literal physical reality to consider here regarding the reinforcement of the ring itself.
Wait, like the actual structure?
Yes, it is a structural necessity to ensure the canvas doesn't collapse under them.
Oh, wow.
Beyond the engineering, there are heavy, persistent rumors that Brock Lesnar might be looking to formally retire at the upcoming SummerSlam event. So this matchup isn't just about WrestleMania. It is likely the beginning of a carefully paced, multi-month narrative designed to permanently transfer Brock's aura to Oba before Brock rides off into the sunset.
You see that same career twilight deeply affecting the United States Championship match, too. Sami Zayn is defending against Trick Williams.
Right.
The analysis notes that ideally, Carmelo Hayes should be in this spot to face Sami. However, the unavoidable reality is that Sami is nearing the end of his incredibly physical career. He only has a few years left performing at this elite level.
Which presents a complex, high-wire booking opportunity. To maximize Sami's remaining time, the analysis outlines the perfect scenario here: a double turn.
Ooh, those are tough.
This is notoriously one of the most difficult psychological maneuvers to pull off in wrestling. You have to slowly, meticulously drain the audience's affection for the beloved veteran Sami, perhaps, by having him take cheap, desperate shortcuts to keep up with a younger athlete.
Right, make him the bad guy gradually.
Simultaneously, you have to force the crowd to organically respect the arrogant upstart Trick by showcasing his pure heart and resilience. If executed perfectly, they cross paths right in the middle of the match.
Wow.
Trick wins the title as a newly minted hero, Sami embraces his role as the bitter villain, and Trick is instantly launched into a major ready-made feud with Carmelo Hayes based on their shared history.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Managing these career twilights and passing the torch is exactly like a major global tech company trying to phase out a beloved legacy operating system in favor of a brand new one.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right. You absolutely cannot just shut off the old system overnight, or your users will panic and reject the new interface.
Yeah.
The transition has to be incredibly seamless.
Yeah, they have to trust it.
You have to utilize the old system's reliability, the veterans like Lesnar and Zayn, to systematically train your users to trust the new system, the rookies like Oba and Trick. If you bungle the rollout, the users, or in this case the fans, will completely revolt and abandon the product.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that tech analogy perfectly illustrates the delicate high-stakes balance. The promotion must strike on a stage as massive as WrestleMania.
Yeah.
They are forced to utilize the immense, pre-established equity of their veterans and part-timers to legitimize the new guard. Establishing future foundation pieces like Oba Femi, Trick Williams, and Javon Evans requires them to be rigorously tested against the legends.
Yes, and speaking of Javon Evans, he is stepping into the Intercontinental title ladder match on night 2. It's Penta defending against Evans, Dragon Lee, JD McDonough, Rusev, and Rey Mysterio.
That's going to be wild.
It is. The source material specifically questions if it is simply too soon to strap a rocket to Javon Evans by giving him a title in a match that is literally engineered as a brutal, high-impact survival of the fittest scenario. The ultimate prediction leans toward Penta retaining in a chaotic match that is simply too close to confidently call.
Well, pushing the new operating system before it has been fully bug-tested, a borrow your analogy, carries massive risk.
Exactly.
If you push a young talent too fast and they fail to connect with the audience under the pressure of a championship run, you can stall the momentum of the entire mid-card roster. The producers have to carefully protect the young talent from overexposure while still giving them a prominent platform to shine.
So, we have navigated the corporate mandates flowing down from TKO. We've worked around the Hollywood shooting schedules and the unpredictability of maternity wards. We've factored in the ticking career clocks of the aging part-timers.
That's a lot of layers.
It really is. Now, let's strip all of that away and look at the final piece of the prediction puzzle, the actual canvas. Let's examine the psychological and visual cues used to tell the story once the bell finally rings.
And psychology is so important.
Right. So the grudge match on night 1 features Seth freaking Rollins against Gunther.
This is a fascinating clash of styles. The analysis notes that it feels as though the creative team wasn't entirely sure how to utilize these two men initially. They intentionally delayed a heavily anticipated Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker program just to ensure Seth and Gunther had a marquee spot.
And the breakdown points out that Seth's willingness to play dirty aligns perfectly with Gunther's brutal, tactical in-ring style. But the detail that completely caught my eye was an observation about Gunther's wardrobe.
Oh, yes.
The prediction explicitly states that if Gunther walks down the WrestleMania ramp wearing his structured ring general coat, the match is guaranteed to be a technical masterpiece. But if he shows up wearing his standard fighter's robe or a plain sweatshirt, quote, anything is possible.
Yeah, that's a big tell.
The pick ultimately goes to Seth, citing his unpredictable offense. But wait, I have to push back on this concept. Are you seriously telling me that we can accurately predict the actual quality, pace, or style of a physical sporting contest just by analyzing what kind of jacket a guy happens to wear during his entrance?
This raises an important question about how this specific medium communicates with its audience. It isn't just about fashion or merchandising. It is about establishing a visual shorthand.
A shorthand.
Yeah. In a performance where characters do not always grab a microphone to explicitly state their intentions, specific attire choices act as psychological amplifiers for the crowd.
Okay, listen.
If Gunther wears the heavy, militaristic ring general coat, it subconsciously primes the audience. It signals that he is treating this as a formal, prestigious, highly tactical battle. A sweatshirt, conversely, signals a chaotic, unpredictable street brawl. It instantly shifts the stakes and the entire tone of the match before a single punch is ever thrown.
That is incredible. It functions like a visual mood ring for impending violence. And we see this exact type of character transformation explicitly leveraged in the brother versus brother match on night 2. The demon, Finn Balor, is taking on Dominic Mysterio.
The source material reminds us that we haven't seen Finn's demon persona since long before the current Judgment Day storyline even began.
It's been a while.
Right. And the lore dictates that when Finn applies that specific face paint, he psychologically goes to another place. It is a visual, unbreakable guarantee to the audience of an immediate escalation in aggression and brutality.
The analysis argues that it is high time Dom was violently knocked down a few pegs by that aggression, resulting in a predicted win for Finn. And this deep reliance on psychology plays out beautifully across the women's singles matches as well.
Oh, definitely.
Look at the Intercontinental title match, AJ Lee defending against Becky Lynch. Becky has the distinct advantage of extensive experience on the big stage, but more importantly, she is currently operating in what the analysis dubs bully mode.
She's relentless right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Her psychology dictates she will stop at absolutely nothing, breaking any rule necessary to get the title back. Even though the sentimental pick might be for AJ to retain, the psychological edge firmly belongs to Becky right now.
You see a very similar yet distinct dynamic unfolding in the WWE Women's Championship match between Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley. Both of these women possess immense, undeniable physical strength that practically leaps off the screen.
Oh, for sure.
But the edge goes to Rhea, and heavy backstage rumors support this outcome because Rhea possesses the crucial psychological advantage of previous WrestleMania experience.
That experience matters so much.
It does. Succeeding on this stage is not just about muscle mass, it is about knowing how to mentally navigate the crushing pressure of the environment. It is knowing how to pace your breathing during an entrance ramp that is the length of a football field, and knowing how to manipulate a stadium crowd of 80,000 people.
The environment outside the ring is just as critical, and neither of them will be arriving to the ring alone. That external presence is a massive factor in the Women's World Championship match on night one as well.
Yeah, that's a big one.
You have Stephanie Vacker defending against Liv Morgan. The prediction expects this to be a down-and-dirty, chaotic affair. Why? Because you can absolutely bet that Dirty Dom Mysterio will be lurking around ringside looking to interfere.
Furthermore, there is a looming psychological question hanging over the entire bout. What about Raquel and Roxanne?
Right.
Their potential involvement, or even just the threat of their involvement, hangs over the match like a dark shadow. It fundamentally changes how the competitors have to approach the physical bout. They aren't just fighting the woman in front of them, they are constantly watching their own backs.
It's pure paranoia.
Because of all these unpredictable variables and lurking shadows, the analysis concludes that Liv does not have this in the bag, predicting that Stephanie will manage the chaos and retain the title.
It is essentially a giant, incredibly violent chess match where half the pieces are operating completely off the board. So let's bring all of this together. We set out at the beginning of this deep dive to uncover the true anatomy of modern pro wrestling.
We did.
And what the insights from Cricket Fox have illuminated for us is that WrestleMania is so much more than a simple two-night physical contest of strength and agility.
It is a highly complex, constantly shifting intersection of disparate elements. You have the aggressive corporate agendas of the TKO boardrooms dictating who gets the spotlight.
Yeah.
You have intense real-world logistics like Hollywood movie insurance policies and medical clearances forcing sudden, dramatic narrative pivots behind the curtain.
You have the inescapable ticking career clocks of aging legends forcing the promotion to figure out how to successfully pass the torch to a new generation without dropping it and alienating the fan base.
It's a tightrope walk.
It really is.
Right.
And underneath all of that corporate and logistical chaos, you have this masterful, non-verbal, visual storytelling, where a simple wardrobe choice or a layer of face paint tells the audience everything they need to know about the psychology of the violence they are about to witness.
Truly understanding the product requires analyzing it on multiple simultaneous frequencies. You have to watch the storyline, but also watch the business.
You absolutely do. Which leads me to a final thought that I want to leave you, the listener, to mull over on your own after we wrap up.
Let's hear it.
If these powerful outside factors, the multi-million-dollar movie contracts, the sudden maternity leaves, the aggressive corporate synergy goals of a parent company, if they are what truly dictate who wins and loses the championships on the grandest stage of them all, are we fast approaching an era where the most accurate pro wrestling predictions come not from watching the weekly television storylines, but by strictly analyzing Hollywood trades and corporate shareholder reports?
Wow. It represents a total paradigm shift in how an educated audience consumes the entertainment.
It really does. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the narrative behind the narrative, and remember, the next time you sit down to watch the spectacle unfold, the absolute murkiest part of the show might just be the most real.
That's our look at the road to the showcase of the Immortals. WrestleMania 42 is looming large, the cards are coming together, and the stakes have never been higher. I'll be back tomorrow with the Raw breakdown, but until then, keep the grit alive and stay tuned to the action. This is Ava, and along with Cricket, we are signing off. See you at ringside.